All right. Well, this has been a minute. So, welcome everyone to the Path Podcast. I'm your host, Angelica. I think it's been like a year and a half since my last episode. And it's been on my heart for a little bit to reintroduce the podcast. I feel like since becoming a mom, like we all go through so many different changes and it reflects in our work too, when we go through those different seasons of life. So on today's episode, I have a really special guest who I'm super excited about. I was just talking about this on Instagram, how I just love sitting and talking with you, Sarah. So we're both like geeking out over here of just like having a conversation. So today I have Sara Busser, who is a coach for highly sensitive people and works a lot with women. That's correct, right, Sarah?
Yes, correct.
And we connected a couple of months back through a really close friend. And we have just been like hitting it off ever since. And we've had these like incredible conversations over the last few weeks. And I think when we had those conversations, we're like, why don't we record this and share this with people? Because there's so many golden nuggets in it. So that's why we're here today.
Yay.
So exciting. So we thought today would be just like a really fun time to maybe learn a little bit more about like the work we do, like share that with other people and with each other because we're still, getting to know one another and just really like be a fly on the wall with the incredible information that we have learned and that we grow through and that we're working with clients on because I just find it so fascinating. And we both have this really deep um, intention and maybe desire to like really support women in so many different ways, but at the root of it, it's to support women. So welcome,
Yeah.
Sarah. That was a long introduction, but welcome.
Thank you. I'm so genuinely excited and honored to be here. And I think it's so cool that we get to continue to learn more about each other, but that other people get to listen in too, hopefully.
Yeah. And enjoyed as much as we do. Because I
Yeah.
think last time we were talking about, I don't even know if it's like wellness, women's wellness, but it really is like maybe the support that one, how we support women, but also like how we need support as women, like individually, and how we sort of provide that for other people. So I actually just like as an introduction, I would love to hear a little bit about like what you do for work. Anything you want to share,
Yeah,
just anything that comes up.
absolutely. Yeah, so like you said, I'm a coach and I work with specifically highly sensitive women, women who identify as being sensitive. And that word, I think, in and of itself, just has a lot of different connotations and misconceptions, perhaps. But the women who I work with are essentially my own self, right? I'm a highly sensitive woman, and we just experience life in a really, it's like life is in high definition for us, and that means that we experience the joy and awe and excitement and love in a really deep, sometimes explosive way. Um, and then also there are a lot of challenges, of course, that come with being highly sensitive. Particularly anxiety, like myself included, and a lot of my clients struggle with anxiety because when you are highly sensitive, you have a nervous system that is just processing the world in such a deeper way, that can show up as sensory sensitivities, or just racing thoughts and ruminating because our minds are just kind of always trying to process everything that we're experiencing. And so um, the the women who I work with are often struggling with just, I think, first and foremost, how to find acceptance for their sensitivity, at the root, because I think, and this has been a lot of my journey, is just feeling throughout my life like, is everything so hard for me, and why don't I fit in certain ways, and why can people seem to just do so much more than I'm able to do without burning out. And there's just been a lot of friction and resistance when it comes to my sensitivity. And I think it's just been such a beautiful and healing journey for myself to understand that while there are challenges that come with being sensitive, it's also such a gift in so many ways, and learning how to support myself through setting certain boundaries, for example, or understanding that me having needs doesn't make me needy or high
Mm-hmm.
maintenance or too much. And of course, a lot of this is connected to how we were raised as well. And was our sensitivity supported as children, or was
Right.
it because it's challenging to have big emotions, and it's challenging for parents. And now, as a mother myself of a highly sensitive child, it's all very um, it's interesting. But yeah, so I work with women who are struggling with that overstimulation and low self-esteem that can come with being a sensitive person in a world that's frankly just not designed in a lot of ways for
Mm-hmm.
sensitive souls like us.
Mm-hmm.
And we also can tend towards people pleasing and perfectionism. These are two things that I have personally struggled a lot with, and that I help my clients with, because there's always this feeling of, oh, am I too much? Am I not enough? I need to assimilate and blend in. And so I'm going to focus less on what I need and more on how to please other people, because that's something else that comes with being sensitive, is we're so attuned to other people and other
Mm-hmm.
people's emotions, and like subtle little facial expressions and body language shifts. And when you're so attuned to other people, it can be really easy to get sucked into trying to please them and make yourself shape shift in order to belong. So I'm saying a lot right now,
Oh,
but
it's so good.
those are
So good.
essentially, it's like I work with women who are on some stage of the journey that I have been on and continue to be on
Yeah.
myself.
It's so good. There were so many golden nuggets. I already have like a full page of notes that I
Oh,
wanted to
great.
like circle back on. But this is interesting because this has actually come up a little bit, and this might be something I just briefly want to touch on and something we can kind of circle back to. But because I had a question that I was going to ask you, but I want to share something first. I've noticed this in a lot of people that I've worked with, and so far, well, let me say this. I've noticed this a lot in like some of my students. So this would be more on like the teaching side of the work that I do, and how when we are highly sensitive and we have these sensitivities, I do agree with you so much on how easy it is to sort of be like sucked into like how other people are feeling. And it's like, how do we, because like we feel it, right? So it's like we don't want to feel that. So what can we do to like neutralize the situation?
Yep.
And what's interesting that I find that correlates with that is also intuition. So I think for
Mm-hmm.
so many of us, when we have these sensitivities, it's like on top of it, it's like our intuition is so attuned to like our environment. So our sensitivities are so heightened. It's like, I feel like sometimes it really is easy to get like lost in how other people are feeling. And then we're left with like never having the opportunity to ask ourselves like what we need, never
Yep.
checking, never having the opportunity or maybe even the awareness to ask ourselves, like, am I okay? Is this okay? Like, what is it that I need at this time? Do I need to step away from the situation or right? And
Yes.
on top of it, energetically, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So then you're leaving situations where you're just like emotionally, mentally, physically exhausted because I find that it's like we scan the room, right? Like so many women who have what, who experience what we're talking about is like naturally it's like we're tuned to like scan the room, right? So it's like we're picking up on all these different energies throughout whatever situation we're in. So I, I guess I'm
Yep.
curious, like if that resonates. And two, do you find that intuition comes into the like any of your conversations or anything like that with clients?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense.
I'm so glad this is so juicy. I feel that highly sensitive people in particular have an incredibly strong intuition.
Agreed. Totally agreed.
Yes. And we often um, are the ones that are most likely to be disconnected from our intuition because we have got the messaging throughout our lives that, oh, what do you're just being dramatic. What?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's wrong. Like, oh, you're just so sensitive, right? Oh no. Or just even if it's not spoken, just observing other people and going, oh wait, well they seem to be not responding weirdly to this situation. So what I'm feeling in my intuition must be wrong then.
Mm,
And so throughout our lives, we just have all of these like just infinite experiences, both tiny and sometimes large, that we start learning this message like, oh, well, if I have a gut feeling, that must be wrong. And so then we learn to override that, right?
yeah.
And we learn to disconnect from that. And so I think, yes, so much of the work I am doing in my own healing and that I'm doing with my clients is um, it's about reconnecting to intuition through removing a lot of those barriers that come in the form of these parts of ourselves that are going, you're too much, you're wrong, you're being dramatic, your needs are high maintenance, you're a burden for needing to do X, Y, and Z to take
Mm-hmm.
care of yourself, right? Um, so yeah, intuition
Yeah,
is,
a
yeah,
big
but then
one.
when we can get closer to our intuition and learn how to reconnect with ourselves, I mean, I think that's where all the magic happens. And then this is where I'm so excited to
Mm-hmm.
learn more from you and
Oh
talk to
yeah.
you more because you obviously have an intuition that is so tapped into and so
Mm.
strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You do too. You do too. Our intuitions, I swear, are like
You.
fingerprints, so they're like all unique. So it's like just really learning the language of our intuition, I think, is really like majority of the battle. Um,
Yes, agreed.
but what's so funny, what came up was self-doubt and how what you were describing is like then we doubt ourselves and we internalize it, right? So like something's wrong with us or,
Yep.
you know, that kind of thing, which I just all of this resonates so deeply. And what's so interesting to me is one of the biggest challenges I have found, I guess I would say with women in general, but I'm kind of singling out my students too, is like not trusting ourselves. So it's like the self
Yes.
doubt, you know, in being an intuitive reader and a medium and psychic and all that. So it's
Mm.
so funny because I think, you know, I thought in my mind when you were talking was like that is one aspect of separation of self, you know, and this is like stuff that we've talked
Mm.
about, right? So like even what you're describing with the self doubt to me is like there is one little notch on the wheel of like that's just one way that I feel like we start to separate from our true selves is like we allow the doubt to be a part of our reality and we stop trusting like those little nudges. And I think too, trusting like how our intuition is actually communicating with us because there's no like written handbook on it. You know what I mean? Like it
I
really is
wish
like
there
learning.
were.
I know, right? And again, this is like a lot of what I support students with where I'm like, no, that was spirit talking, you know, like that's you being tuned in, that's information. So it's so fascinating to hear this. And actually I do want to hear a little bit more about your story because I'm curious about because you brought up childhood and the nervous system, which is so much of what I can talk about for so long, the nervous system. It's it's like I'm giggling and I'm not giggling because one of the keys in my intuitive mediumship work and like the apprenticeship, like with my apprentices and stuff, is nervous system regulation. Because if you don't
Mhm.
have regulation, it's like think of when you're in fight or flight, your brain is wired to just survive. So you can't see anything. You can't,
No.
all you can feel is anxiety, fear, panic, stress, right? So it's like if spirit and our loved ones are on the frequency or the space of like love and compassion and gratitude, and like you could see how separate those energies are, right? So when I tell people is like when you want to connect deeper to your intuition and to spirit and and to your gifts and all these things, you have to have a regulated nervous system,
Yep.
because when we're in survival, you can't see shit. You can't, like, it's just like you're just trying to survive, literally.
A hundred
So
percent, a
yeah.
hundred percent. Yes. And it's, you know, and we talked a little bit about this before, but I think, um, at least I feel in my sort of circle and space online, just so much discourse right now about nervous system regulation. It just
Yeah.
seems to be the, and which is great because it is, like you said, so important. It's the foundation, I think, of wellness. And I think sometimes it gets it there's maybe sometimes too much focus on like, okay, we have to, do yoga and deep breathing
Mm.
and which are these tools and these kind of physical ways that we support our nervous system are so, so important.
Mm-hmm.
And I've found that those things aren't going to be effective or as effective as they could be unless there's a foundation of self compassion first.
Oh, that's so good.
Because if you are approaching those nervous system regulation tools from a place of like, I'm broken and I need to have a more
Right.
regulated nervous system and I'm anxious and
Right.
so I'm gonna do my breath work and I'm gonna do my yoga and I'm gonna do all these things. At least I will just speak from personal experience
Mm-hmm.
that has not been helpful.
Yeah.
And I have had to do a lot more kind of deeper work on how I relate to myself when I'm dysregulated and how I
Mm.
speak to myself. And am I approaching this kind of regulation and healing journey from a place of trying to fix myself versus trying to support
Right.
myself in a loving way. Like I am already enough and I am already whole. How can I support myself from that place? If that makes sense.
I feel like we could do a mic drop on that, because I too, when I was in like a really deep, so I find with the healing journey, and you know what? I'm gonna say healing journey, and then right next to it, I'm gonna put like the journey of self-compassion, because it's the same shit. Pardon my language.
Oh, that's a
It's the
mic
same
drop
thing.
right
But I remember I was in, so when we're on this journey, I feel like there's some seasons that are like more active than others. So when we're like actively processing through certain experiences or certain emotions, or how we're reacting to things, right? When we're being maybe a little more intentional and certain things come up, um, it can be really difficult. I think everyone can recognize that by now. But I remember having such a similar conversation with myself. I think it was back in like 2021, probably 2021, when I would say some pretty deep healing started in about 2019. I know, for so many of us. But I'm laughing to myself because I remember in 2021 I was living downtown. I lived downtown in Chicago for a really long time. My nervous system was shot after a minute because it's so much. But
Oh yeah, I
I
can
rem
relate.
yeah, yeah. I remember saying like I just want to get through this so I can like, be done with it, right? I just want to get through this feeling of shame, or I just want to get through this like PTSD, just to like, you know what I mean? Because it's so uncomfortable. And our
Yes.
mind does anything it can do to just like get us out of the discomfort. And I would say after becoming a mother, which I know you and I have talked about, like the level of self compassion, and this is why I love motherhood. This is like one facet of it, but I think it was through motherhood and different like mother energies that I've experienced since then, like through working with the plants and working with the earth and things like that, that I have finally figured out like, oh, what if I just loved myself here?
Mm.
And if I just loved myself here, how would my life change? And how would my perception of my life change? And how would my perception of
Wow.
myself change? You know, and it's like I think back to my 2020-year-old, like 2021 year, like, okay, myself in 2021. And if I could have just like shared that nugget of like, honey,
Mm.
just love
Yes.
yourself, and that is the antidote, like so much changes, you know?
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, I think this has been one of the most challenging pieces for me of my
Mm-hmm.
journey is that feeling of, oh, well, I just need to heal a little bit more
Oh my
or
God,
be a
yes.
little bit more regulated or be a little bit less this or that.
Yep.
Then I will be worthy of love, right?
Right.
Including and especially from myself. But until that point, no, I'm just going to keep, yeah, like being in shame, right? And
Right.
then, as you and I both know, when you're approaching anything from shame, it like nothing
No,
positive
nothing moves.
can happen.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is not as motivating as
Mm-mm.
certain parts of us might try to convince us that it is.
No. Do you, I guess I'm curious about like your motherhood journey because I know we've
Oh,
briefly talked
oh
about
my.
it, but do you feel like the work you do now, so like when you made the conscious decision to do the work you do now,
Yep.
did that come after motherhood, or was this before motherhood, or like how did that fit in? I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Uh, it's really interesting because when I started out coaching, which was it was 10 years ago, it was in
That's so funny.
2016. I found my way into coaching through my own physical health
Mm,
struggles that led me to study holistic nutrition. And then I kind of found my way into working mostly with women who were struggling with their relationship to food and their bodies in some
mm.
way, which I sometimes chuckle because I'm like, what woman doesn't
Right.
struggle in some way
Totally.
with food and body, right?
Totally.
Um, and I, it was really interesting because during that time, and it's so funny that you are talking about 2019 being kind of this painful year for you of a lot of trauma coming up and
Mm-hmm.
dysregulation and like just a painful part of your healing journey because same
Oh
like
my God.
truly. Yeah, so I didn't know that before about you. And yeah, it was kind of in that 2019 to 2021 period for me where it was this really bizarre sort of, I guess, dichotomy that was happening where
Mm-hmm.
I was working with women in a wellness capacity, helping them heal their relationship with food and their bodies and like a lot of intuitive eating and just like mind body connection. And I myself was hitting a rock bottom in my
Yeah.
own
Mm-hmm.
health, physical health, and then mental health as well, because
Sure.
obviously
Yeah,
everything is
go
connected.
together. Sure.
And that really forced me to kind of face certain parts of myself that I hadn't really had to explore before. And I went back to therapy. And it was during that time that I even discovered, oh, highly sensitive people, that's a thing.
Mm.
And I started reading Elaine Aron's work, who she is the person who coined this term and did a lot of the early research on HSPs, we call highly sensitive people. And it was one of those things for me where I remember sort of looking through her website and taking the quiz and reading some of her articles. And it was the most validating feeling. I felt this huge sigh of relief just to know, oh, I'm not alone in this. I am not like just flawed as an
Right.
individual for experiencing life this way. And it just helped me understand myself so much better and understand why I'm the way I am and why I struggle in these ways. And so then, of course, I started noticing that a lot of my clients were also likely highly sensitive women who were having trouble with emotional regulation,
Mm,
honestly, and that was coming out in
so
struggles
good.
with food.
Oh
So it
my
was never
God.
about the food, it was about having trouble with whatever's going on inside or on a deeper level, and kind of these problems that we were talking about earlier with people pleasing and perfectionism, and kind of I use the term masking, and I know that that is a term really specific to the autism community, and we have a whole nother conversation because there's a lot of overlap and a lot of different opinions
Yeah.
about autism versus HSP. Um, but I think I realized in those kind of 2019 to 2021 period that I had spent so much of my life masking who I really was in order to fit in. And it, my body physically couldn't take it anymore.
Mm,
And that's why a lot of these health issues were happening.
coming up.
Yeah. And so it was in 2021, I got pregnant with my first child and decided that I wanted to work with specifically highly sensitive women and go deeper in
Wow.
the healing work. So it was sort of this whole rebirth for me where I became a mother and started this whole new level of my work all around the
Yeah.
same time.
Oh my God. I didn't, it's so like not shocked, right? That we have that in common.
Yes,
Not shocked. And I'm
crazy.
sure people listening to this too, because I feel like we know 2020 was such a pivot, but I do feel like things were changing like just before that. Like I think back to, it's so interesting to look back on now. I'm sure we'll do the same thing to days like today, right? But I remember 2018, let me think. Okay. I was going through a divorce 2018 to 2019, and I had lost like everything. I mean, for anyone who has experienced that, like you lose so much. I mean, physical and internal, right? Because our internal is where everything starts and then we, follows after.
Yeah.
So much of my identity was also shifting.
Mm.
And I just remember in 2019, I was doing hair. I had owned a couple of salons. I had a bridal hair and makeup business. Yeah, for years. I
What?
did hair for like 18 years. Yeah. Loved it.
I
I
did
did.
not know this about you. This
Yeah.
is so fun.
Yeah. So fun. And it's so funny too, because so what I didn't realize, so actually I did Katie's wedding. I'm going to drop her name in here just because we like love her. I did her hair and makeup and then stood up in her wedding, but
And this is our friend who
just
connected
connected us.
the
Yeah.
two of us.
Yeah.
Shout out,
She's just
Katie. We love you.
such a wonderful, wonderful woman. And
No way.
yeah, I just remember thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to do hair anymore. Like, this is something was changing. And I literally one day, I'm not kidding, I was like, I'm going to close up my salons and stop doing hair. And I'm going to like go down this path of like psychic mediumship. And I was like,
Oh,
it's just going to work. And I just like stopped and I closed my salon and I let go of everything, all my clients, everything. And then COVID happened. Like
whoa.
my last wedding was the day before we shut down. I did a few more after that, but like the last one with like my own company, and like it was literally the day before because I remember I was like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And then I remember waking up the next day and they were like, we're shutting down, right? So why I'm saying that is because I feel like there were so, when I can look back now, there were so many things that were like undertone shifting to like
Yeah.
really open up that like 2020 timeframe, like 2019, 2021, that kind of thing. And then just everything changed. Like everything for everyone changed.
Wow, Angelica.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you went through a divorce. And I didn't know that you used to do hair like as
Yeah.
your whole career before that. I didn't
Yeah.
know any, and that makes so much sense that in that time period, I mean, your whole life just
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
kind of thrown up in the air and swirled around. And then also the world went through that at the same time.
Right.
That's
It
crazy.
was,
Which also, as a side note, I think we all kind of forget about the collective trauma that all, like
yeah,
was insane. Have
bizarre.
all our own individual journeys. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, it's so weird to think back on it. But what's so interesting is doing hair for that long. What I didn't realize is, I know I've been a medium since I was little.
I was so curious to ask
Hmm.
you more about that.
Yeah. I know I used to see angels like by my closet when I was little. It used to freak me out.
Wow.
And I had no support. And that's not anything on anyone. It's just, it's such a unique space to be in, right? Like I see people who have crossed over. And I would also just know things. And it's going back to that whole like sensitivity. And I say highly sensitive person, but also I want to say intuitive person because it's so intertwined.
Yes.
And I remember like really needing support when I was little. And you know, I'll share a little bit of that just because I know we're talking a little bit about it on here, but I experienced such a traumatic childhood with a couple of immediate family members. And because of that, so let me go back first. I know I've been a medium my whole life. My mom was always like, "Oh, you're crazy. You don't. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing in the corner. Don't worry about it. You're making it up. You're not right." And it is what it is.
Yep. Yep.
And I had this significant trauma with my father and my brother growing up for about 10 years. And it's so what I find so fascinating now when I think back on it is like having having such big emotions as a kid in
Mhm.
general, and then adding on a whole other, layers of things like to not have the support to like actively learn how to feel the emotion,
Yep.
to have no guidance. So what I realized is I just internalized all of it.
Yep.
So it's like all of that energy I just shoved deep down as far as it could go, right? Until I couldn't anymore.
Yep.
So I think it was 2019 when I started confronting these family members. I confronted my brother. He admitted to everything. And then it just sort of like tore the family apart and still has, right? Because I've confronted my dad. I've told, my entire immediate family and some of my cousins and things like that, my aunts. Um, because for
Wow.
a
Which,
long
by the way, is so brave. I mean,
thank
just,
you.
yeah,
Thank you. I know
so
I can
brave.
like feel my heart rate. Like I'm starting to get short
I
of breath because I'm
bet.
like, it's like
I bet.
with trauma, it's like what I've learned in the training and what I do and what I help support people on is like 20% lives in the mind and 80% is in the body, roughly, right? Give or take. So
Yes.
it's like our
That
body,
iceberg,
right? Like our
that
body
visual
remembers it,
helps.
right?
Hmm.
So it was such a pivotal time in those years, but I remember like those years were such an active space of healing. And I remember like really finally feeling these big emotions, and they're really scary, because they're so big
Yes.
and we don't know how to process them and we don't know how to like understand them and hold them, right? Like,
Hmm.
so going back to that like compassionate piece, especially since becoming a mother, I think understanding how to like hold myself through that really big stuff is like the most empowering thing that you could like do. And it's like, something I've been really learning with one of my coaches that I'm working with is like filling up our own cup. And this is something I was kind of talking about before we got on.
Yeah.
um and it's like for you to fill your own cup is such a like service to the world, because then how we show up in the world is like that's how we create that positive ripple effect. So like when
Yes.
we can hold ourselves, when we can nurture ourselves and compassionately love ourselves, that's the energy we're then showing up with to other people. So like then we're just mirroring that back to them, right? So people
Yes.
then can find more self-love within themselves and all these things. So it's such an act of, it's such a, I don't know if selfless is the word I want to use, but like it's such an empowering thing to be able to nurture yourself in the way that we're talking about through
Yeah.
compassion, because that to me is like the secret sauce to change your entire reality, like everything in it, all of it. Oh.
It's so wild how we, as women in general, have been taught to put everybody else first,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's just expected of us, and we're conditioned that way. And that therefore, I think a lot of women struggle with this feeling that, oh, if I focus on myself and get my needs met, that's really selfish of me. And I think you just so beautifully described how, in quotes, self-care is not selfish, right?
Right.
And I do think that motherhood, at least for me, and it sounds like for you, has been this real catalyst in that belief system shifting
Mm-hmm.
for me, where I can so clearly see that when I am maxed out and I have not gotten my needs met and I am not prioritizing my well-being, it directly impacts my children in a negative way, my
Yeah.
husband in a negative way, my friends in a negative way. And I think becoming a mom has been obviously in so many ways incredibly challenging as a sensitive
Mm-hmm.
person, but it's also forced me to confront a lot of these beliefs that I used to have, and then thinking about what I needed when I was little and when I was a little person having really big feelings and what it would have looked like to feel really supported in that. And then now trying to do the same thing for my children, which inherently means first my own regulation. Like that's the
Yes.
most important thing. And then that inherently means listening to what I need
Right.
and being vocal about that
Right.
and not feeling like a burden anymore and just
Mm-hmm.
saying, this is what I need and I'm going to get it for the health of my entire family
Mm-hmm.
system.
Which is like huge, huge.
Yeah.
And
And
I
a lot of
know
work. It's
it's
taken a
so,
lot of
yeah, it's
work to get
exhausting.
there.
It's
So
exhausting
much
too.
work.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to sugarcoat the level of exhaustion that can come from a lot of this work. Because I know a framework that we both really resonate with is IFS, interfamily
Yep.
systems. And just that, I mean, that therapy in itself, like, just totally changed my life. That and a couple other tools and things like that. But I find that, we briefly talked about this before too with motherhood. We know the society does not support what we're talking about, right? So
Yep.
uh, on one hand, it's like you're guiding yourself through this, which to me is like not, it's not that it's not natural, but it's like we should have our elders, we should have people that are
Yes.
here to like guide us, right? It's the beauty of
Yep.
the initiations that we go through, right? Motherhood being one of them.
Hmm.
And we don't have that level of support. And I think I have full chills with what I'm about to say, but if we were to redirect our energy, and I mean like as a society or as a mass or a community or however we want to look at it, to focus the support on moms
Yep.
and supporting them in the journey of motherhood and what comes with it. So like, I mean, we always say like it takes a village or whatever, and it really does, but there's no freaking village. There's no
Nope.
village anymore. So it's
No.
like we're left here trying to navigate the changes in our body and our hormones and our minds, right? Because you don't go back. That was
Yeah.
one thing that I struggled with motherhood, was like I can't go back to who I was. So there's this big grief of like, well fuck, I'm stuck moving forward because I can't go back anywhere, right? So then you're
Yes.
like walking mindlessly forward, trying to figure out motherhood and figure out all these things that come with it. And I feel like if we were to refocus our energy to moms, and I said this to you before, and it's probably a hill I will sit on for a long minute here. It's
I'll be right
you'll
there
be
with
right with
you,
it.
Angelica. Yeah.
It's like you see this a lot in like postpartum. So like maybe that first first year, you know, and postpartum is beyond that, but
Yeah.
where people are like, let me hold the baby, let me take the baby and let me do right. And it's like, I don't need someone to hold my baby. I need someone to hold me so that I am replenished where I can hold my baby. Because all my baby really needs is for me to be able to be present and full and to be able to give to them what they need. I don't need someone else to give it to them. Right. And we have this, it's not even like an uptick or a rise because I feel like it's been like this for generations where we have these women. I mean, look at the rise in autoimmune diseases where it's like,
Yep.
what, 95% women. Look at the rates of so many chronic inflammation and anxiety and depression and all of these things. And it's like, if we were to just redirect some of that energy and support in ways that they need it, how we would then be able to raise our children and the nervous system regulation that kids would then grow up with
Yes.
would then overflow and change our communities and our world. So it's like you're
Yes.
looking at this massive society where everyone is struggling to try to figure all of this out, right? And it's a, if we go to the root and support moms so that they can support their kids and raise them with their hearts and connection, I mean, imagine how different life would be.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ooh,
Yeah.
you just articulated that so well. And that is a hill that I sit on and unfortunately feel, it makes me feel really angry if I'm being
Mm-hmm.
honest.
Same.
I just feel a lot of
Same.
anger
Yep.
about that because
Yep.
it's such an injustice.
Yes.
And it's like you said, not only an injustice to women, but to everyone
Literally
because
everyone.
we are,
They come from us.
yes.
You know what I mean? They come from us.
Yeah, it's like that quote that the world is half women and then half the children of women,
Yeah.
right? And that a regulated nervous system is it's crucial
Mm-hmm.
for development, for harmony, for creativity,
Oh my
for,
God. Yeah.
you know, yeah, I mean, it's just,
Everything. Mm-hmm.
it's very frustrating. And especially when you go through childhood trauma like you went through. And thank you, by the way, for sharing
Oh, thank you,
how
Sarah.
your trauma, it's just, and I'm
And for
so,
listening.
yeah, I mean, I'm really in awe of your courage for all of
Thank you.
the healing that you've had to do and that you've forged through. And I think even if someone hasn't gone through the type of severe trauma that you went through, if you were raised in a household where emotions were seen as bad or just not tolerated,
Mm-hmm.
then that instills the belief that feelings are dangerous and
Right.
that they should be avoided and that they should be stuffed down. And when we do that, when we disconnect from how we're actually feeling and we shove them down, that's when, excuse my language, a whole lot of bad shit happens.
Totally. It's where all the chronic inflammation comes from.
Yeah. And this impacts men too, because like for
100%.
men, it's like anger and
Mm-hmm.
war,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, not to be dramatic, but
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of.
I know I'm like, it's not dramatic. I mean, even I'm going back to what you had on your website, but I was like, hell yeah. It's like the war with yourself ends now. It's like, I feel like
Hmm.
it's just, it continues the separation of self. And
Yeah.
what comes back to like things we've been talking about is like that separation of self is where I feel like all of the side effects then come in. That's why we have
Yes.
anxiety. That's why depression
Yep.
is coming in. That's why
Yep.
we have overwhelm and all these things where it's like, and I go back to the IFS and I go back to everything
Yes.
we're talking about, where it's like if we could just see ourselves through the glasses of compassion,
Mm.
or I would say like our true selves, right? Through our eyes, because it's who we actually are. Um,
Yes.
yeah, all of that would change. You know, our relationship
Absolutely.
to our anxiety would change. It wouldn't be as scary. You know, it'd be like,
Mhm.
okay, I need something. What is this is a cry. Like, what is this cry for help, right? Like, what is it that I need right now? And we can
Yes.
give it to ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, when we've mentioned IFS, internal family systems, and that framework has been so important for my own healing. And it's something that I use with all of my clients because I think it's such a helpful way to understand that, you know, I, without going into a deep dive on IFS,
Sure.
basically we do all have a true self. And in IFS, they call it the self with a capital S. And I'm curious to know your thought on this, but I often think of that kind of interchangeably with intuition and
100%.
our soul, like our true
Totally. Yeah.
essence,
Yeah.
right? Is ourself. And we all have that.
Right.
It's just that because of our experiences in life, often, sometimes traumatic experiences, our system, because we like our if we could look at ourselves and our psyche as a system,
Hmm.
these different parts develop to try to protect us from ever feeling those feelings again that we felt when we were little that were not tolerated and that felt dangerous and that got us in trouble and that made us feel unlovable because we don't
Hmm.
ever want to feel those things again. So these parts of us
Right.
emerge that say, okay, well, if you just can be perfect in this way and that way, if you look perfect, if you
Yeah.
get perfect grades, if you make enough money, if you make sure that everybody is happy around, whatever,
Whatever it
all
is,
of
right?
these different, like, often
Masks,
people call them coping
coping.
mechanisms,
Hmm.
right? Masks, right? And these are the parts that are trying so hard to keep us safe, but really it's trying to keep us safe from our feelings at the
Right.
end of the day. But and we have to honor those parts because they have kept us safe and they are so
Totally.
important to the system and we don't want to get rid of those parts, but it's about developing a different relationship with those parts so that you can kind of see them as like, oh, okay, they're all sitting at the table, but your true self is at the head of the table,
Right.
right? And gets to decide, no, this is who I really am. This is what I really want. And that self is compassionate and creative and courageous. There that you can
Courageous.
look it up.
Yes.
There are
All the
the eight
C's.
C's of self. And so I really do think that whatever the healing journey is that anyone is on, it's so much of it is about kind of circling back to the beginning of our conversation around intuition. It's like, how do I build a different relationship with those parts, those beliefs that are keeping me from my true self so that I can get get back there, like return back to that
Yeah.
place before all those parts
Really
developed.
take over. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the big word that's coming up is connection. And this is something that,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm in a big pivot with work. And again, that you and I have briefly talked about it. And
Yep.
I think, though, at the root of what you and I connect so much on and see so, clearly is like that is connection, right? And it's like at the end of the day, you know, I'll tell this story because this one always cracks me up. So I know I've talked with you, Sarah, a little bit about the shamanic and indigenous culture
Yes.
that I've been studying and will study for the rest of my life with my father-in-law. And in that we work with the chanupa or the pipe, and it's a way to pray essentially. And I feel a very deep heart connection with my pipe, and I work with it quite often. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I remember sitting in prayer, sitting with my pipe a couple of years ago, and my prayers were to like connect with other people. Like I'm like I want people to feel seen and heard, and I want to connect and all these things. And I remember hearing from my pipe was like, you can't teach someone how to connect if you're not connected yourself.
Mm.
And I was like, oh shit. And I was laughing because I'm like, duh, like we know everything starts from our inner world and then we create it externally. So it was such a moment for me where I'm like, oh my God, if I'm not truly connecting with who I am, how am I going to guide other people to do the same? Right. Because I wouldn't know how to do it. So, for such a large part of the last few years, I've been learning different avenues and different ways of actually connecting with myself. And I too had realized like how much I would, what's the word I want to use? It's not even blend in. I guess blend in, adapt. Adapt is the word I would
Mm,
use. I would
yeah.
adapt to be like everyone else. It's very much
Yes.
Raven medicine for anyone who's listening who works with animal medicine, very much Raven medicine, where
Ooh.
it's so easy for me to be able to like read someone else and like
Yes.
know how to like act and speak and be, right? And it's like, but it's not who I actually am. It's just going to please this person, right? So we go to the people pleasing and all these things and to live a life unconsciously, right? I didn't know I was doing this
Of
unconsciously
course.
from that place of like just wanting to please and be liked and loved and all these things because I didn't feel it myself. To like really step out of that and be like, well, who am I actually? Which is like such a loaded question. Like,
Yeah.
such
And
a
can
like
be scary, a
so
scary question
so
to have to ask
scary.
yourself.
I had
Yeah.
had so much fear around it, like so much. I've never even said that out loud, but I've had so much fear around it where I'm
Yeah.
like, well, who am I actually, right? And then giving yourself time and space to like discover it, to like truly discover it is like such a beautiful gift. But I
Yes.
remember the word that I keep coming back to is connect, where it's like
Mm.
there's so many different ways that we are disconnected from ourselves. And we've talked about a few of them on here, but to like guide ourselves back to that connected place and then to be able to help other people do that thing, I think is, something that resonates with both of us. I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so much in what you just shared.
I know, and we have a couple of minutes left, but I'm definitely open to
Mhm.
part two. But please go ahead.
Oh my goodness. No, yeah, that a simile is the word that keeps coming
Mm,
to mind. Like just assimilating
yes.
to, yeah, whatever the experiences at the time and the people that you're with and how you think you should be and just yeah, like a lot of it is just how we've been sort of trained societally. And I think,
Mm,
again, this impacts men and women and all genders
yeah.
differently, but obviously our experience is that of women. And I think women are just very specifically trained to assimilate in these ways. And that is such that question of who am I really is such a scary one. I think for me in my experience, because I think there's always been that underlying belief of, oh, well, there must be something wrong with me
Mm,
if I am not like everybody else. And if I'll just give like the silliest
sure.
example that I'm someone who needs a lot of rest and recovery time because social interactions are just really like
Depleting.
the depleting. Yeah, they bring a lot of them bring me a lot of joy and connection, but then on the other side of that, I have to take care of myself. And um, when I a few years ago really started this work of accepting who I am in terms of being a highly sensitive person and getting that validation that, oh, this is just the way that my nervous system works. And so I might need different accommodations or different things than other people. And I started being a lot more bold with just saying, like, it's really important to me to go to bed early, right? Like in whatever context, and this
Sure.
was back like I was living in San Francisco and dating and just
Mm,
and to start to be very boundaried, right? To
right.
use a word that's so in the zeitgeist, but and just saying like unapologetically, this is who I am. I'm someone who needs this and I value this and it is what it is, even if that's different than what other people need. That was such a sort of reclaiming or rediscovering like who I really am. But it was scary because my whole life I've thought, oh, well, if other people are different, it must mean that something's wrong with me, right? And
Yeah.
so that's why I want to be like everybody else
Right.
so that I can belong. And then we end up choosing belonging over our true, authentic self. But then, as Brene Brown so wonderful talks about, that's not actually belonging. That's just fitting in, right?
Mm, it's so true. And I think it's what you're describing to me feels like one of those like hierarchy of needs, you know?
Yes.
Like as humans, it's that's a part of us, you know, to like community is a part of it, like to belong, to
Yes.
so to not have that, yeah, is like super threatening and disconnecting. And it's so interesting to hear you said fitting in versus what was
Belong.
belonging.
Yep.
God, that's so good.
Yeah. That's something I think a lot about because I think I spent so much of my life so focused on fitting in.
Yeah.
And that means kind of masking or becoming a chameleon or
Right.
being who you think you need to fit in. That ironically inherently means that you don't actually feel a sense of belonging because even if you are liked, you're not liked for who you really are.
Right.
And that doesn't feel like true connection,
No.
belonging. And so, in order to experience true belonging and connection, it means being very real about and knowing that that might risk you not fitting in, which is so scary.
It's so scary. It's so funny because I'm thinking of my family right now. This is you're
Mm,
helping me here. I mean, you help me all the time, but this is like, oh my God, because
this is
I think
juicy
when
stuff.
we it's so juicy because I think when we're living from a space of just fitting in, we're always going to be like in the space of like chasing the carrot, right? The invisible carrot of
Yes.
like we're never actually going to catch anything. We're just going to have to try harder and harder and
Hmm.
harder, harder and more and whatever, right? And it's continuing the separation. And I
Hmm.
think courage courage is something I've been working with quite a bit. They're having all these conversations with my family.
Yeah.
And it was in that space of like, I'm probably gonna lose every one of them. And I did because I had to speak truth of what happened to me. Like, and it's not from
Oh,
ill will, right? It's not like shaming my dad or shaming my brother or any of these things. And that took me a long time to get to that space. But I think there's so much courage that it takes to be able to honestly to love yourself enough to like be okay with whatever the result is, right? Like if we have to lose
yes.
this, like because I do know that like something that came up when you were talking is like when we're fitting in, we're never gonna like when we don't find that sense of belonging, it's like we're not then finding like our people then, you know, like we're totally missing the boat on like
Yes.
the people that light
Yes.
us up. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's like it's such a disservice to ourselves too, because it's like then we're missing out on all this love that is like wanting to be in our lives and experienced by us because we're trying to fit in with, you know, the crowd over here.
Yes.
So it's so
It's
funny.
so true. I feel like ever since I have been able to embrace my real self, which a lot of that is just intertwined with my sensitivity, because that's
Mm-hmm.
such a part of myself that I would just like shove down and pretend didn't
Totally.
exist for so long. And as I really started to embrace that part of myself and be more unapologetic about who I am, it's been this great way to sort of filter out people and then get really um just laser focused on like I can sense now when I
Yes.
meet someone within a few minutes, I'm like, oh, you're sensitive too. Like you're a deeply feeling person too. And I want to be where you are, you know?
So
And like,
good.
and that's not to say that people who aren't as sensitive aren't great, wonderful people.
Right.
It's just that I'm so much more able to find my true people and my true sense of belonging
Yeah.
now that I've embraced my real self, which as we're saying this, it's like, duh, but
Right?
why it's so hard.
It's so hard. It's
It's
like
so
pushing against
hard.
identities. It's so, the mind is just, it's so hard. It's
Yeah.
so
I mean, it's
hard.
like we're constantly in the struggle of do I fit in with the herd and therefore potentially abandon myself, or do I stay
Yes.
true to myself and potentially risk
Abandoned,
losing
right?
the herd, right? But then it's like, but you can find your new
I
herd,
know,
right?
I
That's the
know.
good thing. We're not living in little tribes anymore. Like we
No,
can find our people. You and I live in totally different states
right.
and we're connected through another highly sensitive person.
Right,
It's so
right.
cool.
It's so good. Oh my God, this is so good. This is
Oh.
like, I feel like part two.
Yeah, this has
Yeah, this
been,
is
I
so
mean, talk
good.
about connection. Like
Oh,
and filling the cup.
so good,
My
Sarah.
my cup is overflow, or what? My cup
Overfloweth.
is overflow.
That's how I feel. So I'm like, oh my God, it's so refreshing. It's just so much
Yeah.
resonance, when we feel seen and heard. And I don't know,
Yes.
it's so lovely. So, okay, so
Yeah.
we're going to pause here because I know we're going to do a couple more of these and we're going to continue to work
Yes.
together in the future. But can you
Can't wait.
share, just as we kind of close up today, can you share where people can find you and reach out to you to hear more about you?
Absolutely. I am Sarah, Sara Busser, Busser, on Instagram and TikTok are my main spots.
Awesome.
And I just kind of yap about all this kind of stuff and I try to process what I'm going through in real time. And I'm trying, it's funny because I'm trying to use my social media as a place to be more authentic and more vulnerable, even if that risks,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
even though that inherently risks trolls
Other,
and
yeah,
such. Yeah.
judgments and people.
But
Yeah.
it's actually been a really, social media has, this will be part of our part two maybe, but social media has been a really healing process for me in that way because it's cool to be like, oh, no matter what I say, there are going to be people that are like, this changed my life hearing this perspective. And then someone else that's like, oh my God, grow up, you're too sensitive,
Oh
right?
my
And so
God.
it's
Right.
like, okay, then you're not my people.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Totally
Yeah.
fine. Totally fine. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So if you
Well,
feel like you're my people, come follow me
oh my God,
online.
yes. I know this is going to resonate with so many people. So thank you,
Mhm.
Sarah. I know we're going to do another one, but thank you for your time and energy and all of your wisdom. And
Thank you.
yeah, we'll see
This has
everyone on
been
the next one.
so fun.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Oh God. I
Angelica.
can't wait to do the next one.
Yay.
All right. Have a good one, everyone.